Hi, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and try something different this week for the optional video critiques, where I will be doing just a few students at a time. So hopefully won't have the problem with uploading the video when it's so long like I did last project. Okay, so first of all, we're going to get started. This video will be for Carly, Jackson, and Penny, since you were the first three to post your designs. All right, so let's take a look at your new ad, Carly. Okay, pretty fun. Full performance, full protection, all sides. Nice. All right, and to give me some context, I'm going to check out your ad. You're modeling it after. Awesome. Okay, I love how they're super consistent, but yet they actually have a different message. This one's about safety, this one's about excitement, and they do both feel like they would go together, but they're saying something different, which is a whole part of a campaign. Different ad, different purpose, but similar look. You say you found a typo. Okay. So let's, I wish I could see this slightly bigger so I could see the curve here of the car. On your ad. It looked a little bit choppy. I don't know if this is pixelated, but if you can try to go in and smooth this out a little bit right here, see how it's kind of choppy? It just might be that it's a JPEG and how it's showing up on Facebook. Also, this looks a tiny bit weird right here. Let's see what's happening on this car. Oh, it might look a little bit weird on that car too. Okay, so just pay attention to the smooth lines of the car. That's one of the main things that can kind of make something look like it was photoshopped, like that tiny little bump right there. Okay, your pillows look awesome. Really love all of the placement of everything you have on here. Um, Let's see. Theirs is a little bit shorter. You have pretty much all the same content down here, I think, except it looks like you have a different slogan here, which is good. Ever tested on all sides. Okay. So yeah, I think your actual new ad is looking excellent. I like it a lot. Um, it's really cohesive and feels like it's perfectly matched to this one. The thing I am working. Please go to bed right now. Sorry. The thing that I think that I like so much is just that it really feels like it goes together. This sans serif is a tiny bit different than this one, I think. This one feels a little bit more spread out, but maybe not. Or maybe it's a little bit thinner. Huh. If you could find one that's a tiny bit thinner, I do like this font a little bit more than this one. Not a big deal, but just something small to think about. I like that you added a period too. I feel like this should have a period. Okay, so let's talk about your slides. Your slides are looking really good. The Tesla Model S feature campaign. You have an intro that shows the old one, original ad analysis, color. Okay, so one thing, oh, there are your drawovers. Purple typography, purple car, purple lighting. Pillows for protection. Sans serif information. Okay, awesome. I feel like you're pretty close to being done. I like your slides. The bullets and the drawovers look really, really nice on there. So that's good. This color looks slightly different than this color. Might be nice if you could try to match them even more. And then I would recommend making this logo a little bit smaller. See how they end on the exact same line right here? That's called a tangent. So you either want to have things overlap or you want to have them be separate, but you don't want to have them line up perfectly when they're two different elements with two different purposes. Okay? So that's really the only things. A few small things, but it's looking really, really nice. All right. Thanks, Carly. Let's see what Penny had to say. Shading or drop shadow. That's a good idea. All right. So, Jackson, let's go ahead and pull up yours. Guessing this is the ad that you made. Let's look at the other slides. That's cool. True Colors campaign. I like that. Original ad analysis. Check out these other ones. Blended images. It sends a message. Um, Weird. I can't comment on this one. Make sure you say are inspired by real objects. I would type that here, but for some reason I only have the option to like it. Okay, inspired by real objects. Real world situation. Okay, so one small note on your slides. I feel like this is maybe a little bit big. Um, Maybe if you could try to boil it down, make it a little bit more succinct, a little bit less words, or 2 bullet points. Um, that might be a good idea. Let's see. Okay, and here mention what kind of typography they're using. All right, so is it a serif? Is it a sans serif? Is they have something down here that's been italicized? This is all caps. So that's what you want to talk about on the typography page. Okay, new ad analysis. I can't decide. I think I like this font, but it almost looks like it's pixelated. I don't think it is. I think it's just how it's displaying on Facebook because it's super thin, but it looks different and kind of cool than any other font I've seen. Um, I wonder if you could pull it down a little. It feels like there's a little bit too much. So remember the rule of thirds, that could apply in this situation too. So if you put your horizontal line a third of the way down the page and move this down here, that might help this feel like it's not quite so top heavy. So remember that rule, that principle that we learned about in photography, that can apply to our slides as well. Blended images. I know the problem with that is then it's going to be moving up the title, but it might be worth it. Or you could do something totally different on these pages that are blank. You could have the line with the font run on the 2/3 line. So it would be down here. So instead of jumping a tiny bit back and forth, which is going to feel like a mistake, you can have it jump from down at the bottom to up at the top, something like that. Um, it just feels a little top heavy on these pages that don't have any content on them. Okay. Let's see. And I would move this writing down a little bit. So it's not quite so close to your ad. Inspired by real life objects here too. Okay. And I think that's it for your slides. Let's go back up and look at your ad. Okay, awesome. You have a really nice background. It looks very similar. In fact, you probably just pulled that over and then worked on changing this. You have a little bit of a harsh line right here. So maybe you can take the clone stamp and come in here and kind of try to blend this so you don't have such a harsh line right there where probably you were working with your new image and then your old image. The caret blending into the pencil, I love. It's like awesome. You did a really, really good job of doing that. It looks super organic. It looks really, really, like it was made to look that way, even though it wasn't. So that is definitely your goal with anything that you Photoshop. Something like this that obviously isn't true, but it looks like it is because it's so well done. So you really did a good job. True colors. I was seeing if there's anything you could do to kind of change the writing here or the logo. I don't know because the images support this true colors theme, so it seems like you wouldn't want to change it. So yeah, I would just keep on working on your slides. Maybe make this gradient a little more smooth, but just work on this a little bit and then filling up those slides that don't have any content on them that are just your title. I would try to pull and change where you have this a little bit. Okay. Here, I feel like maybe you could try making the type a little bit smaller or breaking it into 2 sections or something. Play around with a few things. One thing that I really liked on this example is if you look how they did it down here, they have something really big that says muted photography. And then underneath that, it gets a little bit smaller and has a few more details. So try to figure out a way to add a little bit more variety. Okay. If you feel like you need to have this much written content, try to say typography and then maybe big and purple or green or something. You say, um, solid serif font in all caps. And then underneath it, you have made smaller so people with the intent that people will read it after becoming curious, period. Okay, so think about how to make it less words and some formatting. Use some of your design skills that you learned on your InDesign project to maybe have a heading or something like that that will help it feel even more professional and look like this part of the page is also designed as well. Okay, so you're off to a really good start liking it so far. And then Penny. Okay, you have a Wrangler jeans ad. Awesome. This is funny. I looked at this earlier and I was like, I think this is a Coliseum. And so I was like, oh, wow, he took his Jeep to the Coliseum. That's definitely different. So kind of fun. Um, And then this was your original ad. Find your edge. Interesting. Oh, I love how you've done this, how you have this different color and it's larger. Maybe would move this image down a little bit or probably wouldn't move these up. I think this is the perfect amount of space that you have, but I'd probably move this image down a little bit. Okay. And normally I don't love, I just mentioned for Carly, I don't love, it's called a tangent when you have one element end where another element ends and they're not the same thing. See how these are on this exact same line, but really they're not. It's bumped down a tiny bit. So if you decide to keep this, make sure you move this black box up a little bit. But usually I would recommend not doing this. If you keep it consistent on all your slides and do it really well, I don't have a problem with it. Okay. But usually you don't want to have something end where something else ends because it can create some kind of visual confusion. Like, for example, you think he's stepping into a black hole because you don't realize this is a text box. You think it's a part of the picture because there wasn't this clear line down here. So if you don't want to do that, you would move this maybe behind the image a little bit. So the image is on top of it and it's bumped down a little bit, or you make it thicker and make it a full bleed or something. Okay. So those are a few ideas, but I think it's done pretty well there. So it's not a huge problem. But just make sure that it's done really, really well if that's what you decide to do. Original ad. I like this. It's very simple, but well done. Let's look at these other ones. Typography, you're going with the same thing. Nice. I like it. Same things apply. Contrast. I like how you talked about that. Okay, good. New ad. And then you're going to how they are consistent. Maybe you could just change that to consistencies. Okay, keep it strong, one word like you have on your other slides. This looks really good how you've pulled some information down here. I like that. Then nice. Love ending with this. Okay, cool. Let's go back and look up your ad. Now that I've given you a few ideas. Oh, and this is white over here. I thought maybe that was Facebook, but I think that's on your actual slide. I like that. I like having it white over here. You know, one thing you could do is you could invert that then, and you could have a gray chunk on the images just to kind of have a little extra design element. So overall, it is really simple and nice, but you could do one or two small things to make it stand out. Just a little clever thing, something like that. Or not. It's okay if you don't want to do that too. So let's take a look at this. Find your wild side. I feel like you need to keep that 2 words because even though you're kind of matching this with only the 3 words and the contrast, I feel like we just need to honor the fact that these are 2 words and keep them separate. You've done a good job blending these 3 images together. The only thing that's a little bit tricky is your Jeep looks a little more fuzzy than this guy, and then the background is super crisp. Okay. So if you were a camera, you'd either be focused on him with your background blurry, or your background would be super crisp and your foreground would be blurry. So I might go in and do a little bit of a Gaussian blur in Photoshop on this one. Let me see if I have Photoshop pulled up. I do. Here, me and my boys on Easter. Okay, so I actually did this on this image, but say I want to blur out this tree. Ooh, well, okay. Just go. Say I want to kind of do a blur on this tree. I'm sure you already know how to do this, but in case not. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and that's going to pull up this little thing for me, and then I can blur that as much as I want. Okay, so really I would just do, usually I do somewhere between 3 and 4. For your ad, I think I'd want to keep it somewhat crisp. So maybe you're looking around a radius of 2. Play around with that. See if that helps it feel a little more organic in terms of what you would actually capture through the lens of a camera. Because right now, having this super crisp and this super crisp, it feels, if you look too closely at it, you realize the problem is the Jeep. And if the Jeep was super crisp, it would all work. But because the Jeep is a little bit fuzzy, it's making it kind of hard to have these 3 images working together. Okay. Besides that, you've done a really good job. You could maybe throw a little bit of a drop shadow on this guy, especially around here where he's leaning on the Jeep. That might look good. But I love how consistent it is, and you're definitely fulfilling the purpose of the assignment. So just a few final tweaks. You're off to a great start. Okay. Thanks, guys.